of victory and the agony of defeat.
Madison, great ball around the corner, Penasini, he beats them all! Junior Polar out wide, bumped away from Trindle, Sharks coming through, none of them can hold this!
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another live edition of the Tip Sheet Podcast. I'm your host, John, also known as 4020. Joining me, as usual, is my good mate and co-host, 60s, also known as Craig, if you know him on a personal level. And the mercury's been rising out west, big fella. The thermometer's been going up at Kellyville, and the intensity of training is matching it as the Eels start to ramp up with everyone back on board except for the international reps now. Everyone's been reintegrated and ramped up into a pretty competitive set of preseason training. We're going to get to that. Got some other stuff happening. Jersey reveals. We've got a re-signing in the NRL. It's been made official. A lot in the docket as always. But before we do talk turkey, as always, a quick check on you, mate. I know it's been busy on your end. How are you holding up?
Yes, mate, busy as usual. It's battle continues at Westmead, unfortunately. But look, aside from that, as always mentioned, footy's the respite, and there's been plenty to distract this last week or so. Of course, before we move on, just a reminder, no matter what platform you're watching this on, if you could give it a like and subscribe, that really helps us out. It helps to get the TCT content out there to more and more people. Also, shout out to our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan and Parramatta, and of course the home of the Eels Para Leagues. We've got a few people I've got to catch up with very soon with regard to sponsorship into 2026, and hopefully we'll have some news on that in the coming weeks. And John, I also might preempt a little bit, because we're all the time we're looking at new content areas for TCT, and I'll just put a little bit of a shout out for people that enjoy their NRL Super Coach, that if we've got someone who considers themselves a bit of an expert in that, maybe they can get in touch with us here at the Cumberland Throw. We might want to have a bit of a discussion about things in that area for 2026 onwards. So that's just that. Now, on a sad note, mate,
Yeah.
We had the passing of Eel 274, Greg Hyde. And I will give also condolences to our good mate, Ben Johnson, who's a friend of the Hyde family. And no doubt it's a very sad time for the family. And as I said, we send our condolences and sympathies to the family. Greg was the son of the immortal player and commentator Frank Hyde. And you have to think, if you're coming in as the son of someone who was that famous, and maybe some of our younger listeners might not be aware of Frank Hyde, but he was known as the doyen of rugby league callers, and his catch cry of when there were kicks at goal, and it was, if it's high enough and it's long enough and it's straight between the posts, would be his call with any kicks or conversions.
His little table on the sideline.
Yeah, had the card table sitting at the sideline. So Greg comes into his rugby league career and carrying such a famous name, and was able to earn first grade representation with the Eels in 1970. I think he joined the club probably around the mid-60s before getting that first grade jersey in 1970. And my little anecdote is that my father was working with the Bear around 1970, and the Bear kindly took my autograph book to Eels training and got a collection of basically 3 grades of Eels players. And one of the ones that stood out the most was Greg's signature, for a couple of reasons. Obviously the pedigree, but secondly, his was probably the most legible signature in amongst a whole lot of signatures where I had, as a kid, had no idea who they were. So as a consequence of that, he immediately became a player that was a favourite of mine. So certainly some childhood memories there. But as I said, we extend our sympathies to the Hyde family at this difficult time. John, I think it's time to hit our news. Go with that stinger.
News team, assemble!
So first cab off the rank is the official news released by the Eels of their extension of Josh Addo-Carr. Josh returned to training on Thursday last week, and upon being congratulated about his return, he immediately informed us, signed it last night. So that's how fresh the ink was when he was back at the first day of training. So immediately, mate, that he was there, it was, the energy levels just went up several notches, not a notch, several notches, right from the start as he wheeled his boombox speaker down to the sideline. And then you could just hear him, no matter where he was on the field, you could hear him. And there is just so much energy that he brings to the squad. It's been there since day one last year. We saw what it meant, not just for the club, but also for the Foxx personally, with him recapturing his Australian jersey by the end of the season and being one of the leading try scorers. He just kept sneaking up that try scorer list all through the season to end up being on a total of 19.
Yeah, it was right up there in the top three, I think. So had a tremendous year, stripped down that frame, got back all his speed, and was a huge difference maker for the Eels.
Yeah, so that was great news that it was official. It's a lot of the negotiations often take place and people agree to things, but until you get that signature on the dotted line.
You're always a little less worried when it comes to a re-signing like that, but yeah, certainly the Eels have definitely not been burned in the last 12 months about the 11th hour signature not being there. And yeah, great news. I mean, it was heavily rumoured coming into obviously the official announcement, Craig, but always good to have it made proper. Like you said, I's dotted and T's crossed. And we got his John Hancock on paper, and he's going to be an Eel to the end of 2027. And I think that's a pretty good medium ground for both parties. He gets 2 more years at the Eels. They have a chance, obviously, to reevaluate after next year, see where it's at, and maybe another extension could be on the table. His football is saying I can play for a fair bit longer, but you never know. So they get backline coverage for a couple of years. Incumbent Australian Roo, that's huge for the club as well. So, yeah, just good stuff all around.
Yeah, absolutely. The other big news, John, which was there yesterday at Eels training, was the return of Ryan Madison. Now, he was first day back, along with other New South Wales Cup players who, although Maddo wasn't with them in the final series, he was plying his trade overseas. But those players from the final series being Tony Mattielli, Jake Tongor, and Ronald Volkman. Now, Volkman's due back, I think, maybe Thursday this week. But we weren't too sure what was happening with Jake Tongor. He's obviously on a train and trial because he's not listed as a development player or top 30. So we assume that that's the case. He's full-time, whatever that would constitute, or what level of contract it is. But so he's part of that full-time squad there. John, I mean, where to with Maddo? I watched the as much as I could of the training last night and tonight, and I mean, he just seems like he's just part of the squad. There's no, in fact, he and the other returnees are following a similar path where when they're their first few days back, they take them through the processes that the other players went through on their first couple of days back at training. So he's following the exact same path as everyone else. There's no, he's not being treated any differently. You would assume that unless something comes up in terms of an offer, that the Eels have Ryan Madison with them for the upcoming season. Now, I'm not ruling out that there ends up being a move. You might even still have the percentages going that way. But despite what was rumoured about a player being told not to return to training, who knows, maybe that was Lomax in, when you look back on it on reflection. So, but yet Maddo's there and back in action. But what do you think, John? I mean, where to?
I mean, we saw with Bowie that a burnt bridge can still be rebuilt to some degree, but I would be surprised if Madison was seen as a serious fixture for the Parramatta Eels for first grade selection heading into next year. I think that there are too many. I mean, I know that he's not really an edge forward anymore, but he just does not. There's way too much competition on the edge, and even then in the middle, there's a fair bit of competition from incumbents and young guys pushing in. So, as it stands, obviously a part of the top 30 has a contract with the Parramatta Eels, and I think it is important that we've literally talked about this in the past, recent episodes about how weak a contract is when a player's trying to break it. You've got to hold the club accountable in that regard too, right? The club has a contract, they honour it. He's at training, that's the right thing to do. Madison gets a chance to, improbably but possibly, earn his way back into contention. And I think that's where the floor is for this conversation. But like you, I do think that in some capacity, I wouldn't be surprised to see a split happen somewhere down the road, wherever he goes to another club, whether the Eels just give him the golden handshake and try and get a spot open. But that's obviously contingent on how you organise a payout and whatnot. But it's the correct process here because we heard that obviously that rumour about a player being told not to turn up at training. That would never have held up with the RLPA. That's just not how it works. It doesn't work at any workplace. You can't just tell someone you want to, you're going to isolate them and ostracize them like that. So, club doing the right thing here.
Yeah, absolutely. John, the other news out of training this week, of course, is that it's the Eels back at work for the first couple of days
they
this
pick
week.
Up the tools.
They're only dipping their toe in the water when it comes to experiencing the real world, no matter what the work is, and there's certainly a lot of manual labour that the players are involved in. There might have even been a player or two on jackhammers just to make sure that it was really tough work that they're doing. So, but that's constituted a bit of a change around this week. So yesterday and today, the boys were in there in the gym at 5 a.m. Then they were off to work, and then they were back on the training paddock. And so, for example, I think yesterday's field session started a bit early. I didn't catch the start of it today. They started right on 5 o'clock, and they were still going when I left at probably about 6:30. So for duty called here on the podcast, John. So I put in my excuse note to leave early. I just left that in the mailbox there at the centre, and took off to get home for this podcast. But interesting that yesterday was a lightish session, but today was not.
They're not just because it's the extra pick up, the sort of work experience week. They don't get held back. They're not getting baby through it, which is good to see. But preseason's ramping up, mate. We've got all the regulars back. We've got the young guys starting to find their stride. Been reading your preseason reports with interest. Always look forward to between the club's media and what you're talking about. Who's wearing the jerseys? Those tour jerseys that we talk about. The Eels. You can tell they're hungry. Like it's coming through in the media. It's coming through in your reports. The players returned. Like no one's dramatically out of shape. Like there's no outliers like that from all the boys. They're hungry, and it makes me hungry for the NRL round one, mate. I don't want to wait.
Yeah, I've been trying to do a little bit more of background information in the reports rather than just the straight out. Well, I don't want to repeat myself in some of the drills that they do, because obviously if I'm writing a report every day, you're going to get similar drills where they're working on particular skills, looking to develop those with the players. So there is an element of repetition. So I look to see what background information I can provide in the report. One of the things that I touched on yesterday but didn't go into in any great detail because I wasn't sure what the Eels want to do with it media-wise. And I don't want to scoop the Eels with these sorts of things because I'm in a position where people will give me information and I don't want to burn what might be something that the club wants to do in terms of media. But yesterday the boys were wearing shirts. They were in 4 teams named after Eels players. I won't say who the Eels players are, but it's not necessarily the obvious ones, which is a great thing as well. I think you'll find that these sorts of things are a way of the players to find out a little bit about the past players who have worn the blue and gold. And just on that note, John, I should also mention that the Eels, if there's any former graded player that's listening to our podcast, and we do get plenty of people listen to the podcast that have either pulled on the jersey or a family that have pulled on the jersey. So I think it's always important just to send out information. But they've got the BGA Christmas drinks.
Yes.
This week, or on Saturday, and it's at the Royal Oak Hotel from 1:00. Now, if you're a former graded player, if you can get in touch with the BGA, just all their details are on their Facebook, their Instagram page, all that sort of stuff. You can get in touch with Billy Richards or get in touch with their socials, and just get your name put down to be part of that. Everyone's welcome, the former players and officials of any graded Eels team. So that's basically your 3rd grade or under 21s, under 23s, reserve grade, first grade. So I know they're looking forward to that Christmas catch-up this week. So as I said, it's seeing what Jason Ryles has done with connecting the players with the Eels history, and making it real, having them get to know who the players were. And we had the players in teams when they split them up into like 4 teams for little competitions or drills or what have you, and they were representing a particular player, a past Eels player, as the name of their team. So I'll give you the tip. There was no Sterling team that was named, nor Kenny. Right, so we steered away from some of the obvious with that. So, look, apart from that, don't forget this Saturday there's the open training session at Fairfield Markets. Now, I went to that last year, and I thought it was sensational, John.
Yeah, it was massively positive feedback coming out of it for sure. Yeah,
it was a great venue. It wasn't a huge number at that first open training session because the weather looked like it was a bit dodgy to start at the start of the day. It ended up being a huge crowd for the next one, which was at Eric Tweedale Stadium. But this is the first one. People, if you want to go, you don't have to register. You just have to turn up.
This isn't the one that you have to have pre-registry sort of thing. This is just an open community event, so it's a great one to get out to.
Yeah. And last year, the players were so giving of their time. I think they got around to speak to every person that lined up the fence after the session was over. And for anyone that thinks they just do a training run that just is designed for an open session like that, no, they pretty much ran through.
They did a full
what was happening at training
in the Fairfield one, and then the follow-up one that was Eric Tweedale. The next one, The 2 sessions there, they ran excellent training sessions. Everyone that attended was wowed by the intensity and the young players that stood out there. I think Riley Smith was a real, as per your training report at the time, but really impressed a lot of people that turned up and saw him in person and how crisp his service was. So it's going to be...
John, I people were basically dobbing themselves in as not reading my training report because I had a few people message me saying, who was that bloke in the gold shirt that was leading the runs?
Self-reporting.
If you've been reading the training reports, you'd know who it was.
Yes,
it's Riley Smith.
So this will be a real test for anyone that gets into touch with 60s after the upcoming members' training sessions. When you point out certain young players that might be impressing, because there is a player that's popped up in the jerseys a few times already now, which might be a highlight of the people attending there. But yeah, they've been great sessions. Jason Ryles has done a great job there. He's been really big on like you said, reintegrating the history for the players and making sure that everything is connected between different eras and generations. And that's a very Melbourne Storm thing. I think that's a very Craig Bellamy thing. He's been big on that sort of cultural aspect of the thing, and that's something that Ryles has obviously bought from his time there. And I think the Roosters do a pretty good job of it too, if what I've heard is true in terms of their little museum they've got out there and at Allianz Stadium now and whatnot. But yeah, the other part is connecting to the fans, and he's been really, really good at that. And these open training sessions have been a hit, and I would recommend, if you've got the time and you want to see the players up close and get a chance to interact, it's absolutely worth your time.
Now, John, speaking of connecting with the fans, have we got some of our usual characters there in chat?
Yeah, plenty of regulars there. Paul, a great comment. The teacher's coming out, and Craig just then with the self-reporting comments there, I think. Got to see a bit of the grade school teacher there. But yeah.
Mate, there was nothing better than kids dobbing themselves in. Or the tactic that I used to use was always, now I'm going to be talking to you about something. Now you have to assume that I know what's happened.
Yeah.
So it's in your best interest for you to tell me in your words what happened before I tell you what I know. I know nothing.
Yeah. But it's the assumption that you know something. But yeah, Paul's in chat there. I'm bringing up some interesting points about Reece Walsh and player IP. You know, Walsh pulling out of the Broncos calendar, citing he owns his own IP, which is this isn't a shot at Paul. Like, it's just a complicated thing. Player IP does my head in sometimes, and you always have someone that's out there saying, no, I own my IP, and then the NRL or the code has claims over the IP. That's a problem for the lawyers there. We also got there. Warren's been concerned about our top 30, lack of top 30 acquisitions, and I was having a chat with him there, just suing for patience there, because Ryles had a plan last year and managed to find some value outside the NRL. Hopefully he can do it again, but it's going to be a challenge. But Warren's definitely, it's a very real concern, mate, and I'm certainly in line with you there. We do want to see some top 30 acquisitions sooner rather than later. Michael, Ron, Joel's there as well. Neil was there at the start saying hello. Plenty. There was Aussie saying hello to everyone. So lots of regulars in there. Chat's doing pretty good right now, actually. Over 60 of you in here having a geese and a gander, which is always very good on a Tuesday evening. Especially, I know the Foxx is re-signed, but it's not a big news week, is it, 60s? There's a lot happening, but it's all little bits and bobs and things that add up in totality, but no blockbuster news.
Well, I do have a bit of lower grade news, and those people that are in chat, they might be interested in what I can pass on today. So I can let people know there are some players who are still around.
Ooh. And
are on part-time contracts. So today, when I was there, the New South Wales Cup part-timers were there, and there was a squad of nearly 30 players that was training. Now, they were a little bit of a distance away, but so I wasn't able to identify a whole lot of players that are there, and there's new faces. There's obviously players who will be playing Ron Massey Cup for the majority of the season. However, these names might interest you. Arthur Miller-Stephen. Artie is still with the club. So
I did see him training with some of the other lads a couple of weeks ago, so I sort of speculated, but it is good to have that made official. And all you're hoping for poor Artie is he can just have a season where he's not injured. Just get through the bug.
He should be back by the start of next season in terms of ready for round one.
Mm-hmm.
But, noticed him going through his paces with the running. I don't think he's up to contact as yet, but that's fine. That he's near the early part of the preseason, so he'll work towards that. Paddy Spence, John, you'd be pleased to know that Paddy Spence still with the club.
Good little Swiss Army knife player right there, so he'll be a very handy part of that. Like you said, RMC and New South Wales Cup setup for sure.
Yeah, very, very loyal Parramatta player. Just wants to be with the club, and good to see that he's still there. Manny Luke is still with the club.
Being
and
part
John,
of the Reggie set up for the last couple of years, yep.
Yes. And John, a player that you'd long had an opinion of, and he's also someone who's had a bit of an injury issue within injury, was Max Tupu.
Yes.
So
yeah,
he's still.
We only got a glimpse of him at a couple level last year, but he was pretty solid when he was there. But again, just bitten by the old snake bite that is injury, and just like with Artie, you just want him to stay healthy, get on the field, and be able to compete, and then go from there. So yeah, good to see that. I mean, we did lose a couple of young players. I suppose the one that probably hurts us the most would have been Dom Destratus, who went up to the Redcliffe Dolphins, but you can't keep them all. And other clubs can offer a more open path to first grade in some positions that the Eels might be, backlogged in. And for players like Dom, you obviously always wish them the best elsewhere. But good to see the clubs kept the likes of Paddy and Max and Artie on hand, and they can be important parts of, like I said, the RMC and New South Wales Cup in 2026.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not going to be the only players that are returning, but that's just what I could get today. As I find out more, I'll let people know. And of course, I was curious about Raf Destrada. So surely he's playing football.
Yes, yeah, he was too handy a player not to get a deal somewhere in an extended roster somewhere, whether it's Parramatta or beyond. But yeah, I mean, unless his passions lie elsewhere, you never know. Sometimes
he wasn't part of the training today, so I was able to identify that he wasn't there today. So I'd say he's cut ties with the Eels there. But as much as we also felt that about Dom, that we would have liked him to be part of the systems at Parramatta, same for his twin brother, Raf. John, the other signings news comes from the NRLW. The Eels were able to share that they'd signed Jane Edigan from the Roosters. She's a halfback, came through Queensland pathways, 17s and 19s, origin level player. And Jasmine Morrissey from the Titans, she's an outside back. So they've added to their backline depth in the NRLW in the halves, and I think there's an opportunity in the halves there, John.
Agree.
And in the outside back, so a bit of competition in the outside backs. It'll be interesting to see how that squad is finalised as we get further into 2026. And apart from that, John, we had the jersey drop.
There was one more minor. Well, I say minor. There was an acquisition for the SG Ball that was put through the NRL signings portal today as well. We picked up a New Zealand schoolboy from Wellington, Drew Falatolu, I believe it was, number 8. So expecting to play back row in some capacity in the NRL, whether it's edge or lock. But I think he's a pickup for the SG Ball squad. So I think he's a New Zealand schoolboy, like the actual Australian schoolboy equivalent for Union. Could be a handy pickup there. So one to watch for 2026 in the under-19s, the SG Ball.
Yeah, we might just be tapping into some New Zealand Union talent.
Well, did you see on that topic, I think New Zealand Rugby Union is trying to pressure their young talent into non-compete clauses with Rugby League. I'm just trying to find my little clip I got sent before, which is absolutely not going to hold up if anyone challenges it in court. But young player might not have that kind of advice. Yeah, the loyalty agreement. They're trying to block an exodus of talent to the Rugby League. with multiple clubs like pressuring their systems now. I know the Roosters obviously love to take a gander at New Zealand talent, but the Eels have done it in the past. Obviously, there's the Warriors. Penrith have got plenty of New Zealand players in their pathways as well. Brisbane. So it's funny. The big brother's feeling the pressure from the little brother, I suppose, in that regard.
Absolutely. So, mate, the jersey drop. Thoughts?
Yes. Club teased it last night. I think it was a 6 o'clock announcement they were saying, and then promptly dropped it. Pretty clean. I don't have too many, if any, complaints, Craig. 86 kit, right, for the home. It was the heritage strip from a couple of years ago, essentially. So you got the Hardy integration. There's no block for the sponsor. It's just the logo built into the jersey, which you love to see. So you got blue as your primary for the home kit, and then the gold on the away alternate. And the yellow ones are weird too, because I know a lot of people, it's a bit of a love it or hate it kind of deal. But I must say that in person they pop a lot more than you'd think. Like when you see them in media, they're kind of like but when you see them, the boys kitted out of them on game day, they do pop a lot. So yeah, really love the home jersey, classic. I know some people get annoyed that we always lean on the 80s, but it is the club's most successful era by a considerable margin. One of the greatest runs for any club, or top 5 run for any club across rugby league's history. So of course we're going to lean into it, but yeah, home kit's great, away kit's solid. The only thing we don't get obviously is all the exhibition jerseys, like the event jerseys, and that gets revealed later on. But then that's where the Eels have done a great job designing some fantastic stuff as well. But yeah, some great pictures of the boys in there. You've got a real contemplative Joash. I think Ryles, he's got the 1,000-yard stare from side on profile there. Had some fun about one there. So
I think they took all of those photos at the Leagues Club.
It looks like they took it at Kicks, right?
So I actually saw Peter from the media team at the club on that day, and I was, hey, mate, what are you doing here? And he said, just the jersey photos. So and getting a couple of popular players in Riley Smith and Joash Papali, confident young blokes as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. And Joash still rocking the mochaccino. He's got the blonde tip still. Yes. So maybe the punishment wasn't a punishment for him. He rolled it. He rolled it and he turned it into pleasure.
I'm pretty sure now. Talon De Silva's hair was by choice rather than a punishment wheel. So it must be the blondes having more fun, John. What can you say?
Exactly. The blondes do have more fun.
John, this may disturb you, but I went blonde once.
Oh no!
For the that was for the instead of shaving the head, I thought I'll do something ridiculous and go with the blonde hair colour. Now it didn't quite work because I've got a lot of grey that's there. So this is a colour that's in there that's added. So I was having to try to blonde hair that was already coloured, and yeah, it wasn't the best, and it went like that horrible orange colour pretty quickly. So it only happened once, mate. Only ever happened once. I prefer to go. I'd go with the head shave.
Yeah, I coloured the hair once. It was for a friend's party. It was I think a theme of black and white with purple. So instead of putting purple on the clothes, I had the streak of hair get peroxided and then purple put through it. I've got, as you can see, pretty dark hair, so the peroxide was there for a long time. It was wouldn't do it again. But yeah, that was pretty good fun. But yes, never gone full on blind.
Always for a good cause too, John.
Yes.
So, mate, that brings us to the end of our Eels news.
Yeah, got a couple of questions in chat. Michael's asking about the status of Sam Luizu. Is he still with the club? You be the best man on that front, Craig. Are we expecting Sam to go around again in 2026, or what's happening?
You know what? I would, because I think he impressed the NRL coaches with his efforts last year. both at training and also in his performances in New South Wales Cup. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's on a part-time contract, but I can't speak to it at the moment.
Yeah. So that's as good a status as we can give. Sorry, Michael. Hope we can have a bit more clarity in the coming weeks as training maybe gets a little bit more integrated between that secondary squad, the Cup squad, and the NRL at some point. We've got Warren asking with the NRL, have we re-signed Ella Carlisle? That's your girl right there, Craig. Had a fantastic year for the Eels in the Harvey Norman's Women's Premiership. She's an exciting talent. And that's very, very fair assessment there, Warren. She's a very exciting talent. Speed the burn.
We'll be speaking with Steve Georgalis hopefully very soon for our annual catch-up. So there's a question we'll be asking.
Jamie asks, has the NAS chat gone cold? Well, as far as I know, Craig, and obviously, again, you're more connected than I am, but from what I've seen in the media, it certainly has. We've had confirmation from, I think, both Jim Sarantinos and maybe Mark O'Neill on sports radio that the Eels have not contacted Nelson Sofa Solomona. On Naz's front, he has obviously made the connection to Jason Ryles in the press, but the Eels have made no overtures in an official capacity, at least.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any progress with talks there. I think it was all, the reports were true about an interest, but I don't know that it ever got too serious, because I don't know that we were looking to pay anything exorbitant in terms of money, and it might be that he can earn more elsewhere. I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. You would assume that signings would have to come sooner rather than later, because there will have to be, I guess, at least two before round one, given that Maddo's still there. And now, regardless, because Maddo's been part of the training into this season, that means we are 26, officially 26 on our top 30. And even if Maddo were to leave, we could technically say, the Eels could technically say they've had 26 players.
We've been down this path before.
We only have to name two more. They can replace him, but in terms of what
top,
they have to
top 30
report
compliance,
in terms of that compliance aspect, yes. So there needs to be two that are signed. I'd be surprised if they went the path of an upgrade to get it done. I think you've got the spots there. They'd be looking to fill
I think
it.
as well, the Eels have dev spots available too, which is a natural progress path for that kind of laddering of your contracts. If someone
What's the maximum? Is it 6?
I've seen as many.
4, I think.
I saw 3 on the most recent one updated, but I don't know if they're missing someone. I've seen as many as 7 in recent years, but that might have been grandfathering in some of the older dev deals. I'm not sure. But I think around 6. I'd say 6 is your threshold. So Eels right
so we
now.
got 4 at the moment.
Eels right now have Lorenzo. They've got Will Latu. And sorry, you said?
Saxon?
And
Saxon.
Saxon might be the missing player on the list I saw. And let me go pull up my list here, though. I saw the other day. Josiah Funariuta. So, yes, if Saxon has a dev deal, then he'd be the 4th player, Craig, yes. So, would not be surprised if it was Saxon, because he is still present with the Eels and part of training there. So, yeah, Neil's on top of it, JFI. I did see Paul saying that he's happy that the yellow's there as the away as opposed to the white alternate that we've run with in the past. The white one...
Gold, not yellow.
Oh, sorry, gold, yellow, gold, same thing. For the Eels, I know. The Titans have yellow, we have gold. But yeah, the gold aways instead of the whites. We might still have a white alternate. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought it out at some point. The white one is always it's a. I talk about the yellow being love it or hate it, but the white one is more hate than love, I think. But the ones that love it do love it. I am looking forward to the exhibition jerseys we see throughout the year as well. Our Indigenous kit's always a banger. We've had some good Anzac jerseys in the past. We'll have a multicultural Polynesian jersey this year, I think. We had the training kit in 25, and I think the club was talking about the 26 jersey. So don't quote me on that one, but I think that we might have a a Pacifica jersey for 26, which would be very cool to see. Your boy is asking, do you think we can get KK, Keon Koloamatangi? Obviously, it's gone pretty quiet there in official capacity. There is a bit of whispers going around, Craig, that South Sydney have been forced to up their offer to match Parramatta's. And if the South Sydney Rabbitohs do get in the same vicinity of Parramatta's offer in terms of both duration and value, it comes down to what does Keon want in terms of the vision for success. Does he think South Sydney can match what the Eels have in their ramp up to a premiership title? Does he want to? He might just like the Rabbitohs and not want to move the money in the years or within the same sort of postcode. I don't know if you've heard something different, mate, but that's the one that's been doing around the traps, is that the Rabbitohs have upped their offer both in terms of dollars and duration, which puts it right alongside Parramatta's. Do the Eels have enough of a package to sell Keon if the offers are the same or near enough to the same?
Well, I don't think Souths are in a position to match the Parramatta offer, like actually really match. They might be starting to get to the ballpark, but I think Parramatta was in a prime position to be able to better what Souths could offer. But it's always, the incumbent club always has the upper hand unless the player is really pissed off with the current club that they're at and just wants out. Because if you're happy at the club, your mates are there, it goes a long way. Once you start getting up into those big numbers, a difference of say 100,000 is not much, because by the time tax comes out and a few other bits and pieces, you're not talking about a life-changing difference in money. It might be for the average punter, but when players are on those sort of bigger coin, it takes a bit more than that to lure them across. I would think that the loyalty that he's had towards South for many years is probably going to hold them in reasonable stead, so that if they got close to what Parramatta's offered, then we might struggle.
Yeah,
I
and
think it was
can
the
pursuit of a premiership of Parramatta outweigh South's immediate future, which looks, from our perspective, and we are biased because we're obviously Parramatta fans, you'd say that Parramatta's on a far better trajectory than South Sydney right now. But loyalty, and as much as we've talked about a lack of loyalty and contracts not being worth it, when a player does buy in the way Keon is quintessentially South Sydney, that does go a long way for negotiations and leverage for South Sydney. So, yeah, Jason Ryles has put together a really good outfit here at Parramatta, and I think that would help sway Keon. But can it outvalue loyalty to the Myrtle and Red?
Yeah, I think you have to provide a significantly higher contract offer to get someone of that standard away from a club that he's going to be happy at. Now, we don't know what sort of coin Souths have increased their offer to, but as I said, if it's in the ballpark, it makes Parramatta's job just that little bit harder. John, any other Eels news that you want to discuss at all?
No, we talked about the SG Ball acquisition. We've had a gander at preseason training, talking about the returning players and whatnot. And for more details, do check out 60's preseason reports, because he's given some juicy details on who's been impressing among the young players, alongside what the club's been putting out with their media. So stay on top of it. Make sure when those preseason training sessions come around that you're not going up to him saying, hey, how come you weren't talking about this player? It's like, well, no, I've written paragraphs about why this player has been standing out. But yeah, I think that's a good wrap for the Parramatta Eels news. We've got a bit of NRL to talk about, so we'll get to that shortly. Last call for any Parramatta questions. Parramatta, this is a fair question. Parramatta's asking you, what's your rating on the new trainer who we got by way of Newcastle?
Well, I haven't had a chance to speak to him as yet. Last year, virtually every staff member was introduced to us within the first week of preseason training. So, as I said, haven't met him yet, haven't been able to, as such, talk about what direction he's taking the club in. Whereas last year we were able to get a lot of details on that. What I have noticed, John, is that there's a lot more straight line running. So a bit more conventional stuff this year. It's not to say that there's not plenty of game time where they push the fatigue in the players, but last year the straight line running was conspicuous by its absence.
Yeah.
And it's there. It's not overloaded. It's not. It doesn't hold what you'd call a massive place like it would have in the past when there were lots of M runs and those sorts of things during the preseason, and sometimes you'd get half the session might have been just about taken up by conditioning work. It's very integrated into what happens there. Even the straight line running is integrated because they might have some straight line running happening with one group while the other two groups might be involved in some sort of drill. So, and then they rotate it, all that sort of stuff. So it's, very integrated, and looking forward to being able to have a bit of a chat with the new head of performance there.
All right, last two questions before we move on to...
Is it Matt Day?
I believe it is Matt Day, yes. I think from Newcastle, I believe it is Matt Day. Last two questions quickly before we move on to the NRL and our intermission, obviously. From Warren, and maybe Warren saw his a spectacular image from training of young Lincoln Fletcher taking a high-flying mark, but he's asking how the young half slash, I don't know, is he a winger? Is he a fullback now? We have seen him at fullback for the Australian schoolboys, but how was young Fletcher going at training, Craig?
Much like the other players, the other young players, John, I'm impressed by their confidence.
Yeah.
Well, they've been accepted by the rest of the playing group, but they're just confident in everything they do. So, he's impressed. I don't think training as it's been so far, and I think until you get to some of the real serious opposed work, it's hard to pick out how players are going there in their specific position.
Because you can see people are doing the Broncos run and whatnot, but
yeah. So I can talk about how aspects of particular drills where I might pay attention to someone. It might be a bit of footwork in enclosed spaces to beat defenders. It might be their efforts in conditioning runs. It might be something spectacular that they've done in attack in just the little drills they do, or when they're concentrating on defence, just some of the big hits that particular players put on where you think, well, I'm glad that's not me out there. But in terms of position, it's going to be interesting to see once it starts, once the opposed starts, because, for example, I might like the work of, say, a centre in the drills that they're doing. Then when the opposed starts, they might struggle in defence.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
It's one thing to excel in the not individual, but because they are squad based or group based, but we'll call it individual because that's what you're looking at their drills. And then, like you said, once the proper opposed sessions start, because there's just so much nuance and depth to playing rugby league as opposed to just an isolated drill. But yeah, Lincoln Fletcher among that group of young studs, I suppose, that have really made an impression. Plenty of confidence, but not being arrogant, which is what exactly you want to see from young talents, and taking the training really well. All right, last bits here. Joel, for great tip for us, Craig. Saw that Isaac Jim was part of the Cook Islands Pacifica Championship squad, like the extended squad, sort of doing the tour. So great experience there for Isaac. And then also Joel followed up asking, do we think he will start in Fleg or Cup this year? I would assume Fleg. Fleg eligible, probably builds into a hopefully Cup contention sooner rather than later. But the Eels tend to be pretty conservative about that kind of thing, Craig. I know that we've got a couple of ball-eligible guys in Ryder Tuangi, Lincoln Fletcher, not present at preseason training, but Chris Petrus, who all played up at higher levels last season, this year still. And I would expect them to turn out for the SG ball. that's been pretty consistently their pattern of behaviour, Craig. And I think if you look at Occam's razor, I think the most reasonable and obvious answer is that simply that the SG ball ramps up into meaningful football faster than any other program relative to flag, cup, or NRL. And when you're that young and that talented and need to be moulded and get experience, I think the club just wants to pump meaningful football into these young guys. So I would expect that if you're SG ball eligible, you play SG ball. If you're flag eligible, you probably play flag. Maybe there might be one or two exceptions. I don't know, maybe Josiah Funayutu could start at New South Wales Cup in 26, I don't know. But I would expect if you're playing age for grade footy, you're going to turn up in that grade.
John, for me, I think it comes down to the individual. And there might be certain things that coaches are looking for out of each of the players. And if they feel that another season in age pathways would be beneficial for them, and it might be that it might even be something physical, like their physique. Do they have, do they have a physique that can deal with the rigours of playing open age football or not yet, or do they still have a pathways physique? So it can be that sort of thing. But if there's a player who you go, well, what are they going to learn from another season in this particular age group? And if the answer to that is, well, there's not really anything more we can ask of them at that level, well, then I think you have to look at putting them up, because I think then if you stagnate their development for a year, this is just my opinion, if you stagnate their development for a year, it doesn't do them any good. So I think it becomes that individual program. And without question, I think that the staff would have looked at where each of those players are at and about whether they're going to play them in age football, and if so, what age, or are they going to start them in open age football like New South Wales Cup? So
I'll tell you what, if they do play all age eligible players at ball level, that is a fearsome forward pack. Our good mate Ham was sort of floating around team composition ideas of me today, and I'll tell you what, you're talking about guys like Ryder Talangi, Mason Ong, Chris Petrus, Michael Nauer, and Sam Polly coming up from the Harold Matts graduation. There's a younger brother of Josiah Funayutu there as well. New recruit Falotolu, Jackson Coyner, another new recruit that we haven't had a chance to really talk about much, comes to us as an Australian schoolboy from Brisbane. You've got Steve Nunn, another New Zealand schoolboy that we picked up last year. It's going to be hard to crack that ball forward pack, so going to be very good to watch. And we had Joel asking when the ball kicks off, and it's usually around first week of February. On that note, we've talked a lot.
There are trials this month up at Kellyville. Yes,
the junior rep trials, the serious ones will wrap up. Yeah, Jackson Coyner, that's right. Yeah, son of a former Eel there as well. So there is a strong club connection there as well.
Nathan Coyner.
Nathan Coyner, is it? Let me check that.
That rings a bell for me, Nathan. That was
Nathan Coyner, correct? Yes.
There we go.
Good memory. Yes.
No, my memory's a bit like a sieve.
Good selective memory. Exactly. Just fight off the random neurons there that connected to the database. Alrighty, that's been
and John, just before we wrap up the Eels news, in case people didn't see it, because we only posted it on socials like Twitter and Instagram, but if you haven't seen it, Eels assistant coach Scott Wisemantle had I had a clip of him playing in the Eels President's Cup Grand Final in 1991 for the Eels against the Bulldogs, and he scores a try. So I had the clip of his try that was scored. It was a ripper try, like the teamwork in the lead up to it, the number of offloads that were there. Unfortunately, it was the final scoring play for the Eels in the match, but it gives you a bit of a background of Scott or Wisey, Parramatta lad, and that was the start of his journey. Was at that rugby league. He went from rugby league to rugby union. Established after his playing career was over, established himself as career coach.
Yes, and
specifically
both
with skills.
Yes, start across union and league in that capacity.
Yes. Yep. So
I've talked about in the past. George Gregan was a big podcast of him that I saw at one point. Spoke glowingly about Scott Wisemantle and just the wealth of knowledge that he has when it comes to obviously the 15-man code there, but obviously a very sharp mind when it comes to both 13 and 15-man footy.
Yeah, and I mean we know what Muggo thinks of
yes,
Wisey,
exactly. Yeah, so being a big part of Jason Ryles' brains trust, and hopefully can help the Eels find another gear in 2026. On that note,
so if you don't follow us on our socials, start following.
This is what you're missing out on. Exactly, this is what you're missing out on. You're missing out on all the good gear.
Thing is we are going to start putting out content that is suited for some of the different platforms. So
the Unks try and get.
We'll be having the YouTube content like this.
Yes,
and there might be some little quicker clips that you do, John. That
hopefully some long form stuff too, talking about Parramatta Eels, the NRL, and whatnot. So that is the plan, and like you said, also social media, Instagram. I don't know about TikTok, maybe TikTok. We'll try and be hip, cool, and up to date with all the new age new media platforms. On that note, let's move on to the intermission, Craig. And we talked about the good gear and going with good gear in that pre-season theme of 80s, 90s montage and the energy. We're going to go to Scarface this week and another classic, Paul Engerman. And I might have used it on the podcast in the past, but it's such a banger that I got to use it again, but push it to the limit, which I think is fitting as the Eels start to ramp up into the most serious part of the pre-season. Picture the quick cut montages. I don't know if I've got a speedboat out of Kellyville, but just imagine the Eels training hard.
It sort of reminds me, not quite, John. One week you had like the Muzak that would go with with training courses or different company promotional thing that might be produced.
Yeah.
So,
good night to Warren as well. He's off. Take care, mate. Glad to have you on the podcast for the Parramatta section. All right, let's move into the NRL news because there is a bit going on. Nothing earth-shattering this week in terms of player transactions. We do have a few to talk about, but we'll get to that later. We do have news on the Perth Bears front, Craig. Good and bad. You take us away with the good news, and I'll hit you up with the bad news.
Well, I mean, they've signed the English centre from Leeds. What was his name again?
I had it just here. One sec. Someone got tagged as well.
So he's going to continue with Leeds next year, and then come over for Perth the year after international.
Harry Newman.
Sorry?
Harry Newman's the guy.
Harry Newman, that's it. Yeah, so English international, Harry Newman, the first official signing. But then, of course, John, the signings haven't been happening for them also.
Yes, missing out on a Gold Coast Titan in Jaden Campbell. Although, look, I feel like I'm in the minority when I say this. I think Jaden Campbell's a good player. I'm not sure if he's a great player. And the money that he was being offered by the Bears and even the Titans is indicative of a great player. I think he knocked back over $1 million a year from the Bears, and I think he's going to re-sign for the Titans on just under $1 million. That's a bit rich for my liking, Craig. Jaden is a talented player, but he hasn't locked down a position, whether it's fullback, halfback, or 5'8". And I know that he projects now as a halfback for the Titans. I don't know. That's a lot of money for a player that gets banged up, hasn't been able to lock down halfback, has been part of that Gold Coast reshuffle in the back line a lot. So maybe the Bears, it wasn't the worst thing to miss out on, but they do need to land a marquee NRL player at some point. They've been linked to Liam Henry from the Penrith Panthers, not as a marquee, but as another, looks like firming to be a signing for them. And they're still talking to Tyron Wishart, but they are not your cornerstone players. And they've got to land something very soon because they're 12 months. I mean, we're talking about the Eels ramping up the preseason. This time next year, the Bears need to be like ramping up their preseason ahead of their inaugural game in February at some point.
Yeah, John, just with regard to what you said, if a club like let's say the Roosters had signed Jaden Campbell, you wouldn't say that they just made a marquee signing.
No.
You would say they've managed to get a very good player with a lot of potential. And I think when you start talking about that and I guess when you're talking about someone that can play in the halves, I would have thought that his asking price might have been somewhere in the 600 to 800 mark, and I think that's being generous with him. But I think his best years of football are still ahead of him. I think a very good coach would get excellent results out of Jaden Campbell. But is he in that elite halfback range that would have led to a bidding war for his services? I wouldn't have thought so at the moment, John, but he could be. And that's what I guess the two franchises have been bidding on, is what he could be.
Like the Bears do need to just go and get someone to build around, but I don't know. It feels like they brought in Mal Meninga for the star power when it comes to recruitment, and it's done nothing. The reality is that given that they were going to have to be scrapping out with, not bargain bin, but, a lot of journeymen and sort of value guys, they would have been better off going with Brad Arthur back in that was his bread and butter, but they chose the fancy option, and I don't know. And this is not me being a cheerleader for Brad, it's just the reality of the situation facing the Perth Bears, is that they needed someone that can get into the trenches and find value, and that's not Mal Meninga. Yeah. Paul asked me, do I have Twitter? I do, Paul. I don't use it. I think it's 4020. I will find out later. I don't post on it. But yeah, that's the reality for the Perth Bears. They do make a signing and a half, because I think Liam Henry is firming to pick up a contract with them. They also had the two young players they signed earlier, Bidagani and another player that will be part of their top 30. But they need to be adding to their top 30 and fast.
Yeah, absolutely. John, there was the NRL rookie camp that was held last weekend. It's a 2-day event, and it's really, I guess it's an orientation for young NRL players. They cover a range of topics, and just so people are aware of who that was. So I just noted down the players from the Eels who went off to that. So it was Lincoln Fletcher, Josiah Funa-Iuta, Lorenzo Talatina, Riley Smith, and Will Latu. So that's the collection of players that went along to it. And in terms of the camp itself, just so people are aware, it's not like a fitness camp or something like that. It's where they do a little bit more extensive training in things like dealing with the media.
Yeah.
The pitfalls of social media as well, cultural awareness, drugs and alcohol, money management, social responsibility, respectful relationships, and personal presentation. The sorts of things that I guess the NRL would hope would help the young players coming through to be role models for their club and for the game. And I think it's, there's always the risk of taking things for granted with young players. And what I think people have to remember is they're not just young players, they're young people. Very young people, some of whom are still teenagers themselves. And getting into trouble where you're not aiming to get into trouble, but maybe you just don't think clearly about it, is, I think, one of the biggest risks that they face. And even things like, and as I said, we talk about not taking things for granted. When even senior NRL players do things and it leaves you shaking your head, Why would you do that? Or why would you post that on social media? Or why would you let someone take a photo of that? Why did you put yourself in that situation? All those sorts of questions. Well, it's being thrown at them in this sort of environment of a rookie camp. It's all the clubs then as well have their wellness and their education programs that they run with the players. The players get, I think, more than enough when all's said and done, education about what they need to be on guard about. It's maybe you can't have too much with that. Maybe you do have to just keep hammering it and hammering it and hammering it. But I think all these things are a good idea anyway, because it's just, I mean, it's not asking too much of the players, just a 2-day event. So
yeah, and you're right. You want to see the NRL and clubs trying to, it's not so much upskill, but just educate players to give them the best tool set to avoid getting into a negative situation. And there are enough pitfalls, at any time, but especially in the modern day with access to smartphones and social media, that can just put you in a terrible spot if you do something silly at the wrong time, wrong place. Yeah. So don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, helping them not do that is huge.
John, when we were talking before the podcast, there was just a mishmash of minor NRL news that I said
the bric-a-brac. The NRL bric-a-brac. So we're going to go through the thrift shop right now and look at some of the quick hitters for the NRL. So look over to my other monitor here. Tom Trbojevic named the heir to DCE. He'll take over as captain. I think it was a car park announcement. Did you see that? Manly bringing the style to their captaincy announcement there. Did it out in the car park. You think they'd just pull out the sponsor sign in a media room, but no. I don't know why, but this is expected, right? Tom Trbojevic, really I don't know if you could say heart and soul, because Manly have had a couple of players that have been talismanic, but Manly have tied themselves to Trbojevics, and Tom has been the best of them, and he now takes over with the C next to his name. Not a shocking move.
John, so in doing it in the car park, are they trying to reposition themselves as the Fibros rather than the Super?
That's a good one. That's open to debate right there. The Manly Battlers, eh?
The Manly Battlers.
You know what? With the cost of living over in the Northern Beaches, I wouldn't be surprised if that's how they're going to position themselves these days. Although I think Tommy can afford to buy it.
So in naming Tom, did they have some players available in like a boot sale or anything like that at the same time?
As long as Harry from the Pier wasn't there to race him and tear his hammy again, they'll be doing okay. But we look at a bit of, I suppose, good news. I don't know what to make of this one, Craig. It's been over a year since we've seen Thomas Flegler in action. Former Origin prop for Queensland, was a Bronco star, went to the Dolphins and did nerve damage in his shoulder. He's aiming for a round 1 return after a nerve transplant surgery. That seems kind of, I hope he gets back. I'm not a doctor. I don't know about the risks of nerve transplant surgeries. I do know that the other player that had a similar injury was the back row for the Tigers, Simon Dwyer. Was that the one, Simon Dwyer?
The one that's still in there.
Yeah, and he never came back. He just destroyed his career. So I hope that Flicker can get back. But, geez, that's a nervy one for me, even as just a watcher on the sidelines, Craig, after a transplant surgery for nerves.
Yeah. Look, I guess you're a long time retired, John, and as a young player, he obviously feels that he's got that potential. You'd have to think the doctors would have given him the all clear to start training and to head towards contacting.
Very, very punny on the nerve of that guy. Yes, indeed, the nerve of Thomas. And you just hope that he wasn't shopping around for a doctor that would give him the answer he wanted. That there was a case of multiple doctors correlating here, saying this is a responsible decision. Like, this is not going to have serious outcomes that outside of being back to form. I do hope he comes back.
Well, John, whatever club he goes to has to insure him.
Well, he still has a long-term deal with the Dolphins.
That'll be the next one.
Yeah. We got very quickly, Paul Gallen's called for lifetime bans over the Eli Katoa incident. That's pretty much in line with what we're talking about, Craig. Very severe repercussions for everything that happened. We'll have to wait and see what the NRL report says. It's been concluded for a number of weeks but not released. On to player transactions. South Sydney, we're talking about them and Keon Kalamatangi. What has eaten up a bit of our cap is Jai Gray officially re-signing for the next 3 years. Don't have details on the per annum basis of that contract, but I don't think you can worry about R360 and the offer they were having there, because we're going to talk about R360 very quickly. In a very short period. But Gray re-signs, expect to be their number one, their fullback, pushing Latrell into the centres permanently, I would imagine, Craig. He was a bit of a breakout star for South Sydney amidst a pretty troubling season for them with injuries. A bit of a pocket rocket. Was probably the difference between the Parramatta Eels beating South Sydney when the two teams met.
I'm trying to forget.
Outside of our own issues in that game, would that have been a 5-game win streak, I think, to close out the year without South Sydney? Was that
something like that? Yeah.
So Jai Gray stays there. The Titans make a signing. They pick up one of the Finai brothers, and it is, let me just confirm this, it is Max Finai, most notably of St. George ilk, but maybe it was somewhere else there. One went to Newcastle, I think. No, okay, so Matt's still with St. George, and Max has gone to the Titans. Bit of backline depth there for Josh Hannay and the Titans. We've got Ruben Garrick is still courting a few clubs. I think the Dragons and the Roosters are keen on Garrick per most recent reports. Eels have been linked, but the Roosters, well, they're going to have cap space and a position with Mark Nwanga-Nitawaze going back to rugby union for the World Cup, so that does make sense. Jack Havington, we talked about at the top of the podcast, off to Melbourne to be cover for Eli Katoa. That obviously dents Parramatta's hopes of maybe shipping Ryan Madison out to Melbourne. Doesn't stop it, but it maybe dents it. And then we go to... was there one more? Kobe Black. We talked about it the other podcast, Craig, but that ramps up as he looks to get a release to go from Brisbane to Canberra, which might be the kiss of death for former Parramatta Eels prospect Ethan Sanders. Ricky Stewart seems pretty keen on Kobe Black, and the word going around seems to be that he's going to be handed that number 7 jersey should he get that release. And I don't know what it means for Ethan. I don't know if he's going to have a reunion with Parramatta or he chases an opportunity elsewhere, because he's not going to be halfback at Parramatta if everyone's fit.
Yeah. Not going to be halfback at Canberra, you mean?
Oh, no, but if I got a reunion at Parramatta, he would not.
Oh, yeah.
I think his days are numbered at Canberra. I mean, Ricky's pretty ruthless when it comes to these things. If they Canberra really were buying into him, they wouldn't be chasing Kobe Black so aggressively. I think you're sort of reading the tea leaves here, and it's an unfortunate situation for Ethan, and hopefully he can land on his feet somewhere.
So, John, what's the latest with 360? Because 1 minute they're trying to tempt the highest paid players in the game across, and then the next minute it's rumours that it's not even going to get off the ground. So
the latest, it's pointing towards disaster more than anything else. You know, Scott Steiner, the numbers add up and they spell disaster for R360. A bit of Steiner maths there. We've got reports that Roger Tuivasa-Sheck is now reportedly putting tenderers back out to the Warriors. That was the last I saw on RTS's front, that he's looking to reconnect the Warriors because concerns that the financial backing of R360 has fallen through. The viability of the Rebel franchise, the Rebel venture, is just not there. Which, again, this is something that, which is funny because only rugby league pundits were talking about it, because everyone else was saying, well, show me the receipts, show me the plan, show me the infrastructure. It was all, paper money. It was all monopoly cash, as far as we can tell right now. And it has helped secure both Zac Lomax and Ryan Pappenhausen releases. That's probably the most powerful thing it's done. And maybe it parlayed Jai Gray into a better deal at South Sydney. I don't know. But right now as it stands, the latest reports are that R360, it's not going to get off the ground. And what do you talk, like Zac Lomax, French rugby? That's the most recent report. Ryan Pappenhausen, French rugby? I haven't heard about him. Does he sign with the Force? Perth Friends. The Perth Bears. Third time's a charm.
Yeah. I think Pappy's a better chance of signing with a rugby league club rather than
Zach ain't signing with any other rugby league club because the Eels hold his contractual rights for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
So, and we spoke about it. Like Zach goes to international rugby, so domestic rugby internationally somewhere, or he breaks bread with Parramatta and comes back. I've said my piece on that, Craig. I don't know if you can trust him anymore. He left the Dragons before his contract was up. He walked away from Parramatta before his contract was up. And I know we talked about life-changing money being on the table for R360, and that is true. And you don't begrudge a player chasing that, but there's also the element of, okay, but you had a contract with Parramatta. So I don't know. And like I said to you, if he were to come back to the NRL for another club, the Eels do hold his contractual rights for the next 3 years. I don't want a transfer fee. I mean, a transfer fee can be thrown in as a sweetener. Transfer fee doesn't help us win premierships. I want prospects. I want players. Yep. So that's where I'm at. For Zach's sake, I hope he can land a deal elsewhere in French rugby or Japanese rugby and be satisfied, not just with the money, but at the end of the day, money is important. But if you're bored out of your mind playing rugby, and there's a fair chance he will be, based on other rugby league players' experiences of union, because while it's very similar, it is also very different in terms of your involvement rates. I don't know if he'll be as fulfilled. And for Ryan Pappenhausen, I think you got to say he might be a favourite for the Bears now. I don't know. Like, that's just intuition there. I don't know.
Well, he's in that position where he just took time away from the game, and that was what he was doing. He was released from that, so he has nothing that binds him to Melbourne contractually.
No, they agreed to the release. Exactly.
Yeah. Puts him in a different position to Lomax.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. But it always felt like this R360 was highly fanciful.
It was telling when Quentin Shivosky started distancing himself from it as well. And he'd been the driving force for a lot of players all players being connected. They're all in his stable, essentially. And then he sort of said, oh, no, with Ryan and Zach, I'm going to recommend them to a third party to do all the handlings now. So, I don't know. It's... I don't know what we're going to look back and sort of call this, but the frenzy in rugby league circles about a hullabaloo that was ultimately nothing internationally. Very bizarre sequence of events.
Yeah. So, John, I think this just about wraps things up. Unless there's any last minute questions, we'll.
Yeah, sure. Let's go to chat. Yeah, I mean, Phil points out Haas, likely staying at the Broncos. We talked about that last week, I think. That was one that also big def nails for R360 was Haas wanted his money up front, which we pointed out was exactly the sort of business you should be doing with something as tenuous as a startup venture like R360, and clearly the numbers didn't add up there. So, yeah, Haas is likely to stick with the Broncos. I imagine there'll be other clubs sniffing around, but Brisbane will be prioritising their cap space to keep their talismanic lock prop forward. Mac Axe asks, is there any news on signing winger depth? We're going to touch on this, Craig. We've got nothing to speak of right now. We mentioned Ruben Garrick just then. He's a player that's been linked to the Eels, but with clubs like the Roosters and the Dragons also in play, I wouldn't be surprised if they throw pretty hefty cash at Garrick, let alone the Bears. But right now, I mean,
wasn't he from the Dragons?
He might have been. That actually does ring a bell. He might have been a Dragons junior.
Wouldn't that be typical Dragons if they
good
let
memory,
a player
yeah.
go and then brought him back?
He was a
rates.
flag and cup prospect for the Dragons. Yeah. And then picked up by Manly and went from there. So that's will be full circle to go back to St. George, obviously, but you always hear about the juniors at Parramatta lose, but you never hear about teams like the Dragons ruining the ones that they missed. But yeah, he'll be a priority free agent for a number of teams. But yeah, I suppose the question for us is, can we find the depth options for season 2026? And that's where I've got to hope that Ryles can extract the kind of value from not the NRL market necessarily, Craig, but the second tier, the cup and the sort of flag plus market, where that's where we got all our great value this year. You know, guys like Jordan Samrani, Kitiona Katonga, Joash Papali, They were the guys that made significant contributions to our first grade team without being. Kitty only had 2 NRL games to his name, so like that technically was an NRL player, but he was not a week in, week out NRL player by any measurement. That's where the Eels got great value from their recruitment. Zara Yongi too, of course, who played the 1 game for Penrith Panthers. So I've got to hope and trust that Ryles and company have a way to attack this market and find some value on players that aren't necessarily NRL regulars, but could do a job in the back line for us and be valuable contributors to season 2026.
Well, I think people, as you know, might remember back to the Eels picking up a certain Micah Sevo from reserve grade at Penrith. And from the time that he came into the team, was a prolific try scorer. So he might have lost his way a little bit in the last year or two, especially in yardage work, and the meters made in yardage work. But he was great value when the Eels had him and picked him up, as you say, from outside the top tier. John, I think that's just about it then. I think we're in a good situation with our Eels at the moment. Get out there to Fairfield Markets this weekend. Have a look at the training yourself. And maybe there might be some things where you go, oh yeah, I read about them doing this, or oh, that's that player. So you'll see the boys in the specific jerseys that they are awarded each week. So you got your yellow or gold jersey, the green jersey, the polka dot jersey, and the white jersey. And I think maybe at the end of the session, if you stick around, you might get to see them award the jerseys for going into next week. So that'll be like a little exclusive that you can have. So I think it's unlikely I'm going to get there this weekend, John. I've got a few things to juggle, obviously, with Westmead and a few other bits and pieces, but I'll see how I go. But until then, mate, I think we'll wind things up. Thank you to everyone in chat for being here. Thank you, John, for more fine work. Thank you to everyone who's listening to this, no matter what day you're listening to it, no matter what platform you're listening to it on. We appreciate your support. Please don't forget to do a like and subscribe, add in a comment, whatever you want to do. Anything that adds to the
engagement
helps us.
Obey.
Helps. Tell your mate.
Engage.
Tell your supporter mates, your Eel supporter mates, about the Cumberland Throw. We've been for too long, even though we've got a really good following, we've still been like a little secret out there. So let your Parramatta supporter mates know. This is where you come to if you want Eels content, original Eels content, not just stuff that's been rehashed in the papers, but if you want original content from people who are at the games, people who are at training, people who go and do the live blogs of lower grades.
And it isn't just
people who are at the
hot takes
pace.
and engagement farming,
Yep. So if you want that, the Cumberland Throw is for you or your mates. So put your mates onto it. Thank you, of course, to our sponsors, Star Partners Real Estate, Auburn, Narellan, and Parramatta. And John, as I always say, go you mighty Eels.